What's going on, guys? Right here. We are on the Grom today. You asked for it. I obliged. We're on the Grom. I'll give you a look at it just here in just a second here. Oh, for the topic that we're going to talk about today, I felt like we needed to get something fun out. Not that the FZ isn't fun. The Grom just puts a good smile on my face, and you guys have been asking for it in some of the last videos here. So here it is. The 2017 Grom Stang. It's got the LED lights up front. I put some new levers on, got the new levers, got the Fly Racing bars, got the fake Pro Taper grips, which are like $1 cheaper than the OEMs, the real ones. Got some bar end mirrors that came off the bobber, and it's got the red going for it. Red's growing on me, but I got new plastics coming, so that's going to change. I'm going to keep them though, just in case, but it's also got the dual exhaust, the Anadali Racing dual exhaust. It's got the Grom, or the Mustang taillight on here, the integrated taillight. It's got the axle mounted plate. That's really all I've done to it, guys. That's about it. Now, let's just have a little fun in this depressing topic. So, the best therapy that I could recommend is getting a bike. Because in this funk that I'm in right now, with everything that's kind of gone weird this year in my life, I do little pop-up wheelies there, but I have fun on the Grom here. And I've tried to record this video 3 times now, so I'm just gonna wing it. I've tried going through different topics, or like setting up different subjects and topics and things, but I think it'll be best if I just go this route. So guys, without beating around the bush, 2019 has sucked. It has just straight up sucked. And let me explain why. So at the end of 2018, it was Christmas Eve 2018. My wife's uncle, not by blood, but is pretty much her uncle, died of a heart attack on Christmas Eve. We were opening up presents, and I got a phone call from my father-in-law, but I was recording at the time. I was recording like my kid and all the other kids opening up their presents. So I didn't want to stop the video, so I kept recording, but something told me like hey, that's, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Why don't you give him a quick call back? So I call him back, and I could tell that he'd been crying. And mind you, like, this is his best friend. His best friend, I don't know how long they'd been friends, but like all my wife's life, like almost 30 years. So probably, before that, but, I could tell he'd been crying, and he asked to speak to Ashley, so I gave her the phone, and she started to cry. She got up, went into the other room, and I was just like, oh God, like what happened? Like this is gonna be bad. And then she told me, and it was just like total disbelief. It's, Mark was such a great guy. Definitely one that you hate to see gone, that you hate to see lost. So that finished out our 2018. But if you remember, like, most of my 2018 was amazing. If you want, you can go watch that video and then compare it to this video, because I don't know what the word is. I want to say like yin yang. There was too much good going on in 2018, so 2019 had to equal things out. So let's fast forward to the end of February. We're going to fast forward to the end of February 2019.
the year prior to that, we were under new ownership, so lots of things were changing at work. And my boss, who is also my brother-in-law, was my boss. He'd been my boss for 10 years, brother-in-law. We worked awesome as a team. I was his right-hand man. And with all the changes, they messed with his pay. They docked his pay like a bunch. So he got fed up and he just quit. He already had a different job lined up. There was another dealership who'd been like asking for him to come work for them for a while. So he finally said he had enough and just didn't put his 2 weeks notice in or nothing. He gave me a couple days notice and said, hey, I'm going to be quitting on Thursday. Don't tell anybody, but it's, just wanted to give you a heads up, but, I'm quitting. So that threw us into being short not only a person, but we were short our leader. And, that really put a lot of pressure on me, because being his right-hand man, that kind of, everybody looked to me as the leadership now. So, I did get like a little bit of a raise out of it, and I'm now assistant manager to this lady who runs the other store's parts department. But, it's just, it sucks when you lose somebody like that valuable to the team. So that was end of February. Early March, my mom had gotten really bad again, to the point in her alcoholism that we needed to take her into the hospital again, and this time was going to be it. Because of the state taking over, this time was going to be it. Because she can't take care of herself, the state was going to take over and actually put her in a home, to where she would live out the rest of her days after she got sober and everything. She would, have no choice. But my mom had been complaining of chest pain for like a couple months leading up to that. But she said she always described it as a pain of like pulling a muscle. So, we didn't think a whole lot of it, but what she was failing to tell my dad was that she had a lump on her chest, and now it was getting actually noticeable. So my dad started freaking out, thinking that it was cancer, because his sister died of breast cancer not too long ago. So they ran tests and did all that stuff, biopsies, and it did come back as cancer. And fun fact, this is the Amityville Horror House. I believe they're going to be filming Amityville Horror 2 here. That's at least what the papers are saying in our local town. But that's the Amityville Horror House with the Ryan Reynolds version. So my mom was diagnosed with incurable cancer of the lung that had spread to the breast, spread to the chest bone, spread to the lymph nodes, spread to the brain. Her upper body has pretty much been taken over with cancer. And the doctors, at first there was hope before we knew what type of cancer it was, because they didn't know how much it had spread at this point. They originally thought that it was just kind of like in the chest. But they said that, hey, chemo could work, treatment could work, but at this point, it's up to her. But after the actual cancer doctor got a hold of the case, he pulled my sister aside and said, your mom has 1 to 6 weeks to live, and you're going to want to start looking into hospice. So that just took everything as a shock. That's the last thing that we were thinking of, happening. We were ready to fight this with mom, but the moment the cancer doctor said this is a very aggressive, incurable cancer. We've treated it before, but it always comes back worse the second time around, more aggressive the second time around. So, all things considered, he said the best treatment would be just to make your mom as comfortable as possible and let her live out her days. And that was March. She made it all through April, and it is the middle of May, so she's trooping on. She's just fighting. But that's the other thing is, with the cancer that has spread to her brain and the lesions in her brain and the medicine, the pain medication she's on, as a family, we don't know if she knows she's dying, because the days after she found out she had cancer, she would wake up every day not remembering she had cancer, not knowing. So she would always ask, hey, where are we? Why are we here? And, we would kind of have to remind her every day. We reminded her every day that she was fighting cancer up until we found out that it was incurable. So at that point, we figured, what's the use in telling mom that she has cancer if she's not going to remember. And that's that, guys. It's so hard to watch somebody that you love like that, dying of cancer, and I don't wish that on anybody. Just seeing how the cancer just eats away at somebody and just turns them into somebody that you don't recognize anymore, not only physically, just mentally and everything. It's right now my mom is in a mental state that I can only describe as what's the word I'm looking for, mixed reality, or I don't know, something like that, where she'll be watching a show on TV. For example, this is true. We were watching one of her shows on TV. It was like NCIS or something, but there was a car accident. That cut to a scene for a Domino's commercial. And my mom said, oh, wow, looks like it was a really bad accident at Domino's last night. And so, quickly putting two and two together, I just went with it and said, yeah, Ma, that looked really bad. So what she hears around her and what she sees, it's all becoming a mixed reality. She thinks this is happening when it's really, just random things that are going on. And I was over there one night and I asked her what she wanted for dinner. And I was making suggestions. I said, hey, would you want any soup, Mom? And wouldn't you know it, the Andy Griffith theme song started playing. The Andy Griffith Show theme song started playing, and she's sitting there and she goes, oh, I could go for some Aunt Bee's soup. And as I'm sitting there for a second, I'm thinking, Aunt Bee's soup. And then I hear Andy Griffith. And, I just, you just got to go along with it. I said, oh, Ma, yeah, that sounds really good. Some Aunt Bee's soup. And she's like, yeah, I think I'm going to have some Aunt Bee's soup tonight. So it's we're just trying to make the best out of this whole thing. My sister is taking it super hard. But, just trying to make the best out of this situation. It's so hard, guys. And while I tell you the rest of the story, keep in mind that this other stuff that's happening is happening all while, it's all happening while, I'm watching my mom die. And I was actually thinking about it the other night. And I actually started crying in front of my mom and everything, but I don't think she realized why. But it's all this stuff that is happening, who's the one person that you want to run to, to tell your problems to, and look for comfort and get some consolement from. It's your mom. It's the one person that has always been there for you since you were a child. Is your mom, and you look for that comfort. And when part of the reason why you're hurting is because of her and her health state, and then she can't, her mind isn't there to be able to comfort you. I think I figured out that's why this also hurts so bad. But so the next thing that happened was I think it was in early April, but this guy that I had worked with for 10 years, he worked at one of the tire stores right next door to us. So literally he would call for parts or things like that, and he would come over. We would always help him out and all that kind of stuff. We'd always help him out with parts, and he would always come over and just chit chat. For 10 years we've known this guy, but we come to find out that there was a really bad accident one night. My wife and I were coming back from a date night. There was a really bad accident. They had the lane shut down for 6 or 7 hours. Later that day or the next day, found out that it was I believe it was a family of 4, high-profile family of 4 from Kenosha, that was run off the road by a drunk driver, and it killed everybody in the SUV. And of course, they didn't name any names yet as far as the victims, but they said it was a family of 4 traveling back from a church fish fry, and they were killed by a drunk driver. He ran into the back of them at over 100 miles an hour, and it happened a mile from my parents' house, and it's actually a road that I take every day. So the next few days at work, I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I see, somebody shared it, the story, and they're releasing names. And, we always just hope that you don't see anybody's name as a victim, Well, the victims were a family of, one was a doctor, one was a dentist, and 2 of them were nurses. And, so they were a high-profile family in the Kenosha area. Well, then, of course, they show the, what's the name? The perpetrator, the bad guy who did it. The train's gone. So, I see the name Timothy Vanderveer out of, Beach Park, Illinois. And they show his picture. And I go, oh my God. That is the guy that works next door to us. And, as you start reading, they start saying that he was driving on a revoked Wisconsin license because of the trouble that he'd gotten into in the past. That's why he's living in Illinois now, so he can have an Illinois license. So he shouldn't have even been driving in Wisconsin. It was illegal for him to be driving in Wisconsin. And then to find out that, he was drunk driving and killed a family, ran into them at over 100 miles an hour, pushing them off the road. The car went into a swamp, or the SUV went into a swamp, and his truck went off into a field, into a marsh. And it's just what is going to happen next? First it was my uncle. And then it was my mom's cancer, or it was my brother-in-law leaving. And then it was my mom's cancer. And now this. Fast forward probably 3 or 4 weeks. And my wife and I are coming back from kind of another date night. But we just went out for some dinner, and we went glass rock hunting. But we were coming back. I was on the phone with my dad. And all of a sudden he says, wow, somebody let a big one off, in town. And he was referring to a firework like a quarter stick of dynamite. Because for some reason, That is not uncommon in Paddock Lake. Just people will randomly let off a huge firework, which, you know, whatever, it's cool. You know, whatever, it's cool. And so, you know, my dad's like, man, that was a big one. So I was like, oh, wow, that's weird. And he's like, yeah, but it's weird. It sounded like it was more in town. So get home about 20 minutes later, and my wife's scrolling through Facebook, and she goes, oh my God, there's an explosion in Waukegan at this plant. It like blew up the whole plant and everything. So I was like, hold on, like when was that posted? And she said like 20 minutes ago. And I was like, huh. I was on the phone with my dad, and he heard the explosion. So we were scrolling through Facebook and everything, and you know, you could see people posting like, did you hear that noise? You know, what was that noise? Did you hear that? It sounded like an explosion. And then people are putting two and two together that it was the plant. And then we start seeing posts from people that like were in our circle in high school, you know, posting, hey, is Alan okay? Has anybody heard from Alan? And so, you know, quickly realizing that somebody that we went to school with and was in our circle of friends was probably at that plant when it exploded. Come to find out that he was inside the plant when it exploded, and he died the next morning of wounds that he sustained, burns and wounds that he sustained in the blast. So right then I'm just like that's another thing. Like what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? And, you know, just seeing all of my friends on Facebook, like, who were closer to the guy, because, I mean, I'm not, you know, going to say we were friends or best friends, but it's like, I remember hanging out with him. He was in our circle of friends. He seemed like a good guy, you know, cool to hang out with, but, you know, my other friends were, like, real tight with him. You know, it's like we were more of, like, an acquaintance, but I still knew him. And it just sucked to see my friends hurting so bad because of that. And then this is the last thing to happen so far, and I say so far because I don't have a good outlook on this year, and I just feel like if anything can go wrong this year, it will. And you know what? I'm going to go the other way because I just think it'll be more fun. And I don't want this video to be too long, but whatever. It's just how I'm feeling lately. Just a whole lot of whatever. And so this is the latest thing to happen, and this one really hurts. This one really hurts. Some of you might think, like, after hearing this, some of you might think, why, you're overreacting. And I kind of feel like that too, but I feel like everything that's happened this year is making me feel worse about this because of everything that is still happening. So I was leaving work on Thursday. It was about a week after the explosion. So people were still on Facebook talking about Alan and, you know, putting, you know, messages to his family and friends and everything like that. So I was leaving work, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and I have the Kenosha County Police Scanner on my Facebook. You know, like if anything happens, you know, they just post things, you know, to kind of keep everybody in the loop of what's going on in Kenosha County, or the city of Kenosha. So I see there was a post that said reports of a shooting, 3 victims involved, and it gave an address. Well, my buddy Chris, his brother is a police officer for the Kenosha Police Department. So I sent him the screenshot, thinking like, oh, maybe him or his brother like know something about like what happened. So he sends a message back saying like, he's like, wow, that's in a nice area of town, because I thought it happened in the city of Kenosha, which wouldn't be that surprising, to be honest. But he goes, wow, that's in a nice like area of town, and he's like, I think that's the Whitecaps. And so like we thought that it was like a home invasion gone bad. Well, of course, later that night they start releasing more details, or the people they're looking for. And actually, Chris was finding all this stuff out like real quick. But we started, or they shared the post, and they started releasing details. They released the name of the victim. Well, they said that a 16-year-old girl and her 39-year-old mother were shot. The girl died at the scene of her wounds, and the shooter was on the loose. So I'm reading the article, and they list the name of the girl who died. So, and they show her picture, and I'm just looking like why does that name sound so familiar? The name sounds so familiar. She looks really familiar. So what do? I go to Facebook. What every good detective does. They go to Facebook, and I type in her name, and I'm like, man, she does look so familiar. And I can't tell if this is just rough or gravel on here. But so I'm looking at her profile picture, and I'm like, so familiar, can't put my finger on it. The name sounds so familiar, can't put my finger on it. I look at her cover photo, and it's her and her mom. And when I seen her mom, my heart sank, because her mom has been doing family pictures for us. She's a photographer. She's been doing family pictures for us since my son was a baby. And her daughter would always be there at the studio. She would either be at the studio or at the location that we're doing the pictures, helping her mom out, especially helping our son to smile. She would constantly be out there, either tickling them, playing with them, playing ball with them to get them, more happy and comfortable to be there. Just always, she was always there. And that's what, really, I'm just having such a hard time with everything, guys. It's like people that have been in your life have made some sort of impact on your life at some point or another. In my case, all these people that I know that have had all this unfortunate events happen to them, I just don't get it, guys. I just do not understand. What kind of bad juju did I unlock this year to be causing all of this pain and, all this bad stuff to be happening? I just hate it. I hate it, guys. And so I want to give you some details to show you how badass Stephanie is, the mom who was shot. So this is what happened. The ex-boyfriend of Kaylee showed up to their house, snuck in through the garage door, showed up to the house with a gun, snuck in, shot Kaylee. Kaylee screamed. He shot her again. The mom heard the scream and heard the shot. She ran over to see what was going on. And the ex-boyfriend was standing in the doorway, and she said, "You don't have to do this." And he said, "Yes, I do." Proceeded to shoot her once in the chest. She must have went up to block or deflect, but the bullet went through her wrist, causing damage, and a bullet went into her chest after going through her wrist. So then she tried slamming the door on him to try to get away from this guy. Tried slamming the door, which he ended up breaking through. And after he broke through, he shot her again, this time in the chest, making complete contact with her chest. She was able to lock herself in the master bathroom. She called her husband, who is I believe a staff sergeant or a master sergeant in the Army. He's high brass. I'm going to include some family pictures here. And they have a GoFundMe right now that I'm going to put a link to, because I donated. So many people, others have donated, but I want to put that in here. But after she called them and everything, she went to perform CPR on her daughter, all being shot twice, both in the chest, in the wrist. that's a badass mom right there. That is a badass mom right there. To be able to do this kind of stuff. To perform her duty like that. And I just can't imagine, if my son were to be shot, and what I would do. My heart breaks for the family. 2 brothers lost their sister. A mother lost her only daughter. A father lost his daughter. And it's like, I don't, when you have a photographer who you figure that is your photographer, you want them taking pictures of you and your family, it's different than just going to JCPenney or whatever and, getting some pictures done. I don't know. It's a little more special. And, we had gotten to know the Juga family a little bit, and Stephanie and Kaylee, and it just, I don't know, guys. My head is not in a good place. Still going through everything with my mom. It's like I'm fighting through everything, but I don't know, like, how much more, like, pain and, like, heartache that one person, can go through. And, I always tell myself, I'm like, there's other people who have it worse. But then I don't know. I start to beat myself up, I guess, and kind of be like, don't discredit yourself. You're going through a shit ton of stuff. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. But that's why being on the bike like this, it's definitely therapy. It is definitely therapy. Like, if I wasn't on the bike, it's like that's, I wouldn't have anything else to do but to think of everything that's going wrong. So I hope you guys have enjoyed or stayed through this video to see why maybe I haven't been my old Ray self, or just, I don't know. I feel like 2019 has changed me, and I don't know, not particularly for the better. I don't know, but I do really appreciate you guys who keep watching these videos and stuff like that. So until the next video, get out here and ride if you can, and until the next one, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.